Hello, everybody, welcome. Rose Psych Investigator, hello, Everybody, welcome. Rose Psychic Investigator. So, guys, I apologize for I did my hair, so you may or may not be able to see. Maybe depending on how, like sometimes the color changes in the video. I have stains on my face. It's just the dye. Just finished. And there's so much to talk about. And I realized today, just apropos of yesterday's video that I had done about ice, and it was intense, right? I feel much more rested, today, even though there's a lot of other scary situations to deal with. But uh, let's do it. I'd like to ask for protection, a beautiful ray of light coming on top of my head as I breathe in. I feel my lungs as I breathe out. I create a circle. I create a circle. I step into it. I step into it. I feel protected. I feel connected. I like to ask that information come only from the highest sources, that it create the good and only the good, and so it is. So the big question now is, how will Bibi be stopped? Bibi and MBS pushing the US/Trump to finish off Iran, quote unquote. What will happen to Bibi and MBS and their push to destroy Iran? So there's a lot of questions, specific questions to be addressed today, and about this specific thing. But I was just give you the broad overview of my questions. Oh, okay, the big view. And before I get started with the questions, I really wanted to recommend this documentary to you. It came out in 2018. I'm gonna leave the link in the comments. Where I leave usually the summary, if you have time or want to learn more, because it explains a lot of their animosity and what's going on. It really informs a lot of why Saudi Arabia and the historic rivalry that they've had for a long time. I think it's a really accurate and really good documentary. So having said that, let's get to the questions. So since the question for today is, how will Bibi be stopped, and Bibi and MBS pushing US and Trump to finish off Iran, I'm going to start with the article that came out in the New York Times that has information that I'm going to use to ask questions. Saudi leader is sad to push Trump to continue Iran war in recent calls. Crown Prince Mohammed bin Salman sees a historic opportunity to remake the region, according to people briefed by U.S. officials on the conversations. So this is a headline of an article in the New York Times about that I think it came out today, about the role MBS is playing in pushing with Trump for the war in Iran to continue. Now, as you know, this is parallel to Bibi's effort, but they are both working together, I think, in different ways with different, but I guess you could say parallel agendas, right? They both want to destroy Iran, but given the financial relationship that Trump has with MBS, it's really worth looking at. So let's do that. I'm going to continue reading more about this article because it's really important to understand these forces, because obviously they're the ones pushing for this disaster that's happening. Saudi Arabia's de facto leader, Crown Prince Mohammed bin Salman, has been pushing President Trump to continue the war against Iran, arguing that the U.S.-Israeli military campaign presents a historic opportunity to remake the Middle East. According to people briefed by American officials on the conversations, in a series of conversations over last week, Prince Mohammed has conveyed to Mr. Trump that he must press toward the destruction of Iran's hardline government. The people familiar with the conversation said. Prince Mohammed, the people familiar with the discussions said, has argued that Iran poses a long-term threat to the Gulf that can only be eliminated by getting rid of the governments. I'm not going to read the whole article for you. It's long. I'm going to leave it a link, a GIF link, so you can read it. without a subscription, but I'm just going to read some passages that I think are relevant to the overall picture. So here, the consequences of the war for Saudi Arabia's economies and national security are enormous. Iranian drone and missile attacks launched in response to the American-Israeli assault on Iran have already created huge disruptions in the oil markets. Saudi officials rejected the idea that Prince Mohammed has pushed to prolong the war. And I'm highlighting this part that I'm going to ask about later on in the recording, this part about interceptors. Okay, so Saudi Arabia has a large stockpile of Patriot interceptors that it is using to protect itself from the barrage of Iranian attacks that have rained down on its oil fields, refineries, and cities. But interceptors are in short supply globally. Drone and missile attacks in Saudi Arabia have already struck a refinery and the U.S. Embassy, while fragments from intercepted projectiles have killed 2 Bangladeshi migrant workers and injured more than a dozen other foreign residents. So now that I have brought this information and these facts, right? This is news, right? It's like just basically, it's when I say facts, like this is discussions among people familiar with the situation, right? But it seems very accurate to me. So now we can ask the questions because it has a massive consequences for the outcome of this war. How are Bibi and MBS pushing to finish off Iran? What will happen to MBS and his push to destroy Iran? Now, I wanted to also give you this broad view before I ask the question. This is so this video is really about the difference between MBS and Bibi and how they're approaching this and what's going to happen to them. I talked yesterday or the other day about Bibi, right? But I haven't really talked about MBS at all. We have talked about Jared Kushner that involves MBS, but I wanted to give you at the beginning this view that I had. I honestly, I don't remember who I was talking to, if it was a video, but I had said that I saw that overall, the way that Bibi's going to go is that Trump will be removed. And with that, there will be a stop to the arms that are going to Israel. Somehow, and that if Israel does not have enough weapons, it's not going to be able to sustain the attacks, especially completely isolated. That's what I saw about Bibi. Now, in addition to that, what I also saw, I did see it, is that so I saw that it's very likely that Iran is going to win in the sense that they're going to get their objectives, meaning they're going to be able to push to kick the U.S. out of the Middle East. And this is Putin's goal also, because Putin has wanted to diminish the power of the U.S. all over the world. So that is also something that Russia, I believe, has been pushing for. But anyway, I see that once the U.S. retreats, I feel like the U.S. is also going, if it doesn't have weapons to give to Israel, it's not going to be able to sustain supporting and protecting all those Middle East countries, the GCC countries, the Gulf countries. They're not going to be able to count as much on the U.S. either. And the consequence is going to be that Iran is basically going to take over, because what's important to know about these countries that they don't really have an army that compares at all to. It's not a top army. None of these countries have top armies. These countries are also not. They don't have large population. Iran has 90 million. Okay, that's a lot of people. A lot of militarized people. The terrain is really positive for as a protector, right? So you count all these things together, and these people are determined. They may not have as much, but that's their entire country is focused on this, seriously. Like and like this is a fight for survival. Okay, it is not a whimsical thing by some rulers. It's like the population is engaged. Okay, no matter how we think of that they're like whatever they do to women or don't do to women. It's like I think a lot of this has been weaponized and has it been in some ways exaggerated. Okay, because if we look at what's going on in the U.S. about women, it's not like we're so advanced either. Okay, in that regard. But anyway, the point is that like I had seen his vision that there would be real trouble for these Gulf countries. And so this is the vision I had before. So I want to know now that we have more information here, then as you know, I like to ask questions based on this. Okay. So let's get to it. All right. So how are Bibi and MBS pushing to finish off Iran? Well, what happened to MBS and his push too? So wow. The first image I see is Bibi prodding. You know, there's the thing that you have when you have a fireplace. You have the thing that's a prodding thing. Has like it's like the same thing that the devil fork. It looks like that. He has the devil fork and he's hitting. He's like prickling Trump and saying, "Hey," he's like, "Hey, look over there. That's your way out. That's where your way out. You know, everybody has all that information. The best thing for you to do is to just think of like a time when you never have to think about the pedo thing again because everybody's going to be distracted. They're going to be sent to war. They're going to be whatever." So it shows me this is how Bibi is. And I see he's prodding Trump below and in front. And so he's like, is he kind of blackmailing Trump in a way? And I see that Jared is behind Bibi and like, yeah, good job. Kind of like, I think Bibi is really a devil too. He's a devilish manipulator. But I feel like Jared is definitely working for Bibi more obviously than the US. So he's basically recruited and fooled Trump. Obviously, fooled is not the word because Trump wanted this distraction, but he's been let's say this. How would I put it? Essentially bamboozled into this situation. And because he's incompetent, and so is everybody who has let the situation come to this. But here we are. So that's Bibi. Now let's ask about MBS. How okay, how has MBS been pushing Trump to finish off Iran? Wow, I see it shows me MBS coming in very confident with stacks of $100 bills, but a lot of money. I see he's pushing these like airport carts. I mean, obviously he's the king, he doesn't do any of this, but metaphorically, he's pushing and so much money that it fills the entire room where they're meeting, and the room is golden. And he's saying, "I have this is all the money you could do anything with the money. It's so much money. It's this and that." And so it's money, financial. And so Trump, wow, it shows me that Trump's sitting on a sofa and his mouth is watering because money is, he's just like, yes, yes, money, money. It's like literally, he's like, it's like an animal, it's like a dog with a piece, like smelling a steak. That's Trump with money. That's how he feels about it. It's like, and at the same time, you have the Bibi that's pushing him, prodding him, prickling him like a torture thing. So two forces that are very good at guiding him to do the wrong thing, which is what he's designed to do, the wrong thing. Okay. So next question, what will happen to MBS and his push to destroy Iran? Will MBS succeed? Wow, I'm just processing what I've seen here. Wow. Just well, thank you, Vicky Lewis. Vicky sent me emails, and she's a commenter. She was telling me about her experience with the Medal of Saint Benedict. Okay. So anyway, that's what I'm holding here. Um, it's it's okay. It's true. So guys, okay, I just will tell you, and it's so interesting sometimes when I ask about things that I haven't talked about or haven't asked about in a while. So, okay, so I'm just gonna tell you what I see. So I see this image of MBS eating kind of lazy. And by the way, I've read that meetings in Saudi Arabia, because it's so hot, they tend to happen at night. Everything happens at night. A lot of people sleep during the day, especially the royals, I guess, because there's the laborers doing everything else. And so I see this image of like MBS and sofa, and then I see these like IVs that pump blood into him, and the IVs come from the US. So there's US blood. Like it's so interesting, when I see have these visions, because it's very symbolic but very apt, right? So his blood, like his power and his wealth comes from having this blood being pumped from the US into him. But I think it has to do with like him having access and control. Okay, I'm just gonna say what the visions say: control of the US military to a degree, where using the US to accomplish whatever he wants. So it's this kind of like you've seen these bags of blood or whatever, but it's continuous, this blood that pumps into him, but him meaning the king, meaning the power and such, right? And so the next image I see is the blood supply is cut, and then he dies. Like, and he deflates, first he deflates, it withers away and dies. And okay, and there was something else that happened before. Let me make sure okay, the thing that I want to tell you also about the symbolic nature of the blood thing. And now we see that the Trump, I'm going to make a different video about it because it's a whole mess unto itself. Trump has already, like, they're moving. Did you see it came out today? They're increasing the age of availability of people who can serve in the military to 42. And we know that, for example, in Russia, 1 million Russians died for Putin's crazy war, right? And that's what it seems like they're planning. I don't think it's going to happen, but I'm telling you this. So, in a sense, the blood that I saw bumping into MBS, yes, it's the power of the military, but it's also American blood. He's counting in a way or another, and say, yes, Rosie, that's true. He's counting on American blood to be spilled for him, for his goals. That's what I'm getting. Okay, now then let's go back to the image of the blood, like the supply of blood cut to MBS. Like literally, there's a scissors or a cut, and then not only so he withers away, he dies, and then okay, wow, this is what's also shocking. So I see that there is another palace coup over there, but there's a revolution. The I think Iran, even though we have to remember this, the population in Saudi Arabia is Sunni, and there's something called Wahhabism, which is a very radical kind of interpretation of Islam, and that's where the 9/11 people came from or whatever, right? They were influenced by that. And it's been exported to Pakistan, by the way. So they have a relationship also, right? I'm not gonna address that 'cause it's like the whole geopolitical thing. It's gonna go on for hours, but I'm shocked, honestly, because I see a palace coup, meaning the whole thing could be taken down. Honestly, I just see people like celebrating, and this massive because this documentary, by the way, the arrivals that I showed you at the beginning of the video, talks about how Iran, Iran, like the fear that a lot of these Gulf governments have of Iran is not just that they are Shia. It's also that Iran is more quote unquote socialist or more like anti-monarchy, because they removed the Shah. The Shah was like an invented monarch anyway, but it's it's like wait, is it? I think he was. If I just remember, I'm not going to look into this. So many different things. But the point is that Iran is anti-monarchy, and that it threatens all these Gulf monarchies for that reason. And so I do see them succeeding, and I'll say top. I see that there is a palace coup in Saudi Arabia because they're weakened, dramatically weakened once the blood supply, quote unquote, from the U.S. is cut. So that's really like, guys, the end. Oh, something else I don't think I told you. Years ago, I had a reading. I don't know, it was somebody asked me a question. I had looked into Saudi Arabia in the future, like really down the line. I remember, like, is it 100 years later or something? And it was empty. Like, and I was like, what? I don't know if it was Dubai or something. No, Dubai is UAE, but I do think it was talking about Saudi Arabia. And I was like, wait, I think it was like a city that was planning. There was something. And I was like, wait, it's empty. Why? And now it's kind of like, in a weird way, makes sense because we also have the salination plants situation. Oh, something else I also want to tell you. I was telling Corinne about this. I have a tiny little Bible. I told you I went to the Catholic store. There was one store that I went, guys, by the way, maybe I should have a video about it. It's just very fascinating. It's a store downtown that it's like basically the place you go if you have a church or something. Like you want to build a church in your house or something. Because it has all these like stuff that I don't even know the name of. The pillars, the things. I don't know. It's like a chapel supply store or something. That's what it looks like. It has all the saints. It has all these like ceremonial things. And so that's where I got this. But I also went to the bookstore and I got a tiny little psalm book. It's so cute. Okay, let me actually. I'm gonna show you. It's cute. But the point is, let's see. One second. The point is that let's see. I think I put it. Did I put it here? I hope I haven't moved it. Or is it here? Because I was reading it just now. Was it? Okay, I'll be right back. So I wanted to show you I found it. Here's the little book because I went on my, I got lots of little prayer books, but this is the tiny, so cute it is, how small. So it's just the Psalms, okay? So what I do sometimes since getting it, it's been this little book, like a week, something, like, well, not even a week. I just ask a kind of a question or something. I've done it for the specific stuff in the news, right? And then a few days ago, I had used this, and I came across this passage, and I was like actually looking it up online because I didn't remember which one it was, to be honest. Because I'm used to reading Psalms in English, to be honest, like mostly, and so in Portuguese, it's interesting. It's harder to remember somehow. I don't know. It's different. I mean, in my first language is Portuguese. I'm much better in Portuguese, I think, than English. But still, you understand, right? So I was remembering that it was like I had looked, and it was talking about how. And again, this guys, it's just I'm not wanting you to become Christian or anything. It's a tool, okay? But I just thought the coincidence was interesting because it was the part where uh, rivers become deserts, and like and so I'm going to read this passage. So it's Psalm 107:33, and then goes a little bit. Okay, so he turns rivers into a desert, springs of water into thirsty ground, a fruitful land into a salty waste because of the evil of its inhabitants. He turns a desert into pools of water, a parched land into springs of water. And there he lets the hungry dwell, and they establish a city to live in. He sow fields and plant vineyards and get a full yield. By his blessing they multiply greatly, and he does not let their livestock diminish. When they are diminished and brought low through oppression, evil, and sorrow, he pours contempt on princes and makes them wander in trackless wastes. But he raises up the needy out of affliction and makes their families like flocks. The upright see it and are glad, and all wickedness shuts its mouth. So I just thought it was kind of interesting here in relationship to the vision I had about just now about MBS. But it is, I don't wish terrible things on like the population or anything, but it's kind of crazy that I saw it. Now, again, going back to the beginning theme of the video, it is not just MBS, but Bibi. So, having seen this thing about MBS, how does it, like, I had seen the image of the blood being cut out of MBS, right? How does that happen? Okay, because then, and how is Bibi related to this or not? Because I had seen, like I said, that Bibi would fall once the US and Trump leaves and the US is forced to stop giving everything to Israel. But then how does Israel relate to MBS and this collapse I had seen? Okay, so I see it's showing me back the image of a few videos ago. I was looking into Bibi and how they would in Israel the fate. I remember there was a video I did about the fate of Israel and how they would have to walk back from the Litani River. Now, I think it was today even that a few days ago that somebody in the IDF said that some spokesperson, or I don't remember who said it to be honest, but something like, "Oh, we're now taking control of Lebanon," and they're like destroying a lot of homes over there. The goal is to take up all the territory up to the Litani River, right? So I had seen that the like Israel's going to have to walk back with their hands up, not meaning losing and having to leave. And then I see when I ask the question, how does that happen? Like, how is MBS, how are Bibi related and MBS related in this downfall scenario, especially? So it showed me first that Bibi, like it showed me immediately the image of Bibi having to walk back. And with that, they can't connect. They can't help the Saudis. And it was, no, I see that they have a bit of contempt for the Saudis, but they're like, we're kind of in it together. Oh, because they feel like the Saudis don't have much to offer them other than money. Or like, they see they can train them, they can do things, but they can't really give what the US can give them. Give Israel. I mean, so once Bibi falls and the US cuts aid to Israel, the stuff that I had seen in the part where I talked about the arms, right here, it says interceptors are in short supply globally. Drone and missile attacks in Saudi Arabia have already struck a refinery, right? So the nightmare they had about what could happen may in fact happen, in the sense that if they run out of supplies of arms, they're not going to be able to take care of it anymore, right? So, but then there's also, but I have a question: what about the consequences to the global oil supply? You know, Spirit is telling the whole thing with climate. People have been screaming about climate change for a long time, and it's a real thing. And so, wow, solar is going to be huge. There's other types of energy and other types of things that are going to have to be developed quickly, and say because humanity is going to be in a better path, we're going to quickly focus on actual solutions as opposed to murder, right? Like, because the discourse in public has been about, on the one hand, demonizing groups of people doing wars, and then doing, oh, AI is going to kill your job, AI is going to, you're going to serve AI this, AI that. It's like, I'm not saying AI, I'm sure it has its uses, but the way it's been talked about, it's all about how like all these systems are gonna like take us down. It's telling you also the data centers, right? They're like, oh, you don't need electricity because data centers need electricity. So it's saying it's gonna be tough. But it's saying, but that in a way it's saying you shouldn't worry too much about the oil situation is gonna continue in some way. But it may be that there's a transition of power in Saudi Arabia. Okay. But that's just interesting. I'm a little shocked about it. All right. So I have a question. Now, I know timing is complicated, but uh is how fast, I mean, I guess I want to know, is it going to be the situation with MBS, is it imminent or is it not imminent? Is it going to take a while? What's going to happen? Yeah, I see that first it's going to be the US cutting support for Bibi having to leave. And then slowly it's going to be the Saudi Arabia thing on the background. There's other things happening, but it suggests really that I see that MBS, when he sees what's happening, he just starts sweating cold. And there's a coup, right? Remember, it's a long story. You can look up how he got into power. It has a lot to do with Jared. Isn't that interesting, right? That truly MBS came into power almost as soon as Jared Kushner went into power with the first administration of Trump. So it will make a lot of sense that he goes down with Trump, right? Because they're part of this like evil spirit group, evil chat group. No. So okay, so Saudi Arabia may survive for a while, but without him, because of that, and it's saying they will regret bitterly having given all this money to Jared. But I do think, okay, another thing that is very obvious that I had said, and maybe, let's see if there's anything about that in Financial Times. The situation of, essentially, okay, let's just ask it straight up. So Saudi Arabia and the UAE are like underwriting a lot of these megalomaniac situations related to AI. Okay, so if there's trouble with Saudi Arabia, even though they're saying they're putting all this money, at which point is it going to affect the AI bubble? It's a month. Oh wow, it's a month and a half. Boom, that's it. A month and a half. Wow, interesting informations. Interesting informations. That'll be April 24th, May. That's right. And I remember Corina, give Corina credit here. She said, we were talking privately. She said, "Oh, the Burroughs thing is by June. It's gonna be, this downturn for them, like their bubble." So that clocks it. So very interesting. So very interesting, guys. So next, I'm gonna do tonight another video about Trump's push to get troops to the Middle East. Okay, but for now, this I think is very important that I look into this because it's the background and the people that are really pushing and financing Trump to do this. Okay, all right. So thank you for watching. Bye.